Hi you, King here, and this is gonna be my video game theory on who's gonna be one of the big bads in Spider-Man 3 Final Chapter. Now, as we know from a post-credit scene, we can confirm that Otto Octavius is gonna be making his wicked return in the next full game installment. And from what we can tell from the previous games, there's always some secret second villain to subvert the expectations of us fans. The first game did it, with it making us think that the big bad was Mr. Negative, only for it to turn out to be Dr. Octopus, manipulating his negative feelings towards Norman Osborn into something toxic and destructive. But thanks to the help of the Spider-Man, Mr. Negative, aka Martin Lee, would later go to redeem himself. And the next person to embody this villain method would be the Tinkerer, made to be Miles' friend in this iteration of his game, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Even though the big bad ended up being Roxxon, she still followed the same method as the other villains, with her being a big bad that has personal connections to the Spider-Man that makes the struggle against them a more personal and tragic one, hence creating a better story overall. And of course, it happened again recently with Insomniac's newest installment, Marvel Spider-Man 2, where you would assume the big bad would be Kraven, but thanks to trailers and promotional videos, we all knew it was going to be Venom instead, who was going to overshadow Kraven and be the final fight for both the Spider-Man. But what we didn't know, even though most people accurately assume, the person who would don the symbiote and become Venom would be Harry Osborn. We all knew Harry had the Venom symbiote as part of his treatment, but we didn't know that it would turn him into both Agent Venom and Venom in this game. But in keeping up with Insomniac's methods of creating villains, it would make sense for the story, as it would create a tragic adversary for Peter to fight against, who once held the place of one of his dearest friends. Which means Insomniac knows the best Spider-Man stories are the ones where Peter Parker Spider-Man, or anyone as Spider-Man, just can't catch a break. But this brings me all the way back to Otto Octavius, who, because of his body slowly degenerating into failure, and with rage he feels towards Norman Osborn, who he feels cheated him out of success and wealth, was corrupted by the neural uplink with his mechanical arms to become much more aggressive and violent towards others, turning him from the brilliant mentor of Peter Parker to the villainous mastermind, Dr. Octopus, who tried to kill Peter along with half the city just to get revenge on Norman Osborn. Again, going with the systematic storytelling that Insomniac prefers, with making the big bad closely connected to the Spider-Man to make the overall story tragic and compelling. For which I have no problem with. I feel like they've done a great job so far doing that with the Norman Osborn character, from all the way back from the first installment to where he now has a deep grudge towards the Spider-Man and will most likely become the Green Goblin in the third installment. But that's only one big bad. I feel like the other big bad will be Dr. Octopus, but not as he was in the first game. I feel because they want Miles to take the main spot as Spider-Man as Peter retires, I predict that Norman will get Otto out of jail, and then Otto will go to do his own thing where he kidnaps Peter, and then he will put his own mind into him to become the Superior Spider-Man. You might say that might sound too crazy, but it would make perfect sense. I mean, think about it. Throughout this entire game franchise, Insomniac's been building up Miles to replace Peter, and that happened at the end of the most recent installment. But of course, people will say, we can't have Peter just do nothing. Of course he has to come back for the third game. And yes, but this is how he'll come back. Not just as the Superior Spider-Man, but as the Superior Octopus. Since the Superior Spider-Man costume has already been utilized in previous games, and this will be a more villainous version of Peter Parker with Otto Octavius in control, it makes more sense to use the Superior Octopus persona for this version as a big bad for Miles and Silk to go against, while working with villains like the Jackal, for which now that he can provide Peter Parker's body, could create him a super Spider-Man army for him to not only use against Miles and Cindy, but also Norman Osborn and his corporation. I also theorize that Norman will create an army of goblins to not just seek vengeance against the Spider-Man, but also the entire city for which he believes has turned against them after all this time. So it'd be an army of Spider-Man fighting an army of goblins with Miles and Cindy and a few other surprises in the middle of it. And as to what those surprises are, you would just have to wait for my later theory videos. But back to this theory, I'm not saying Superior Octopus is going to be the main big bad, but he would definitely fall in line with being a major villain closely connected to the main Spider-Man. For Otto, former mentor of Peter, puppeting him around in his body, it would definitely be hard for Miles, the current Spider-Man, to see his mentor Peter filling up the role of Dr. Octopus, but one that's much more superior with both power and tech that he uses. Again, creating that tragic but compelling story that Insomniac is known for weaving for their Spider-Man characters. But how would Silk fit in all of this? We would just have to wait for her game to find out. But while you're waiting, you can decide which costume is better, Superior Spider-Man or Superior Octopus. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow, and ring that notification bell for more theory videos like this, as I'll be making one for characters like Green Goblin or what I expect to happen in the third installment. And again, please support me by following me on TikTok and subscribing to my YouTube channel, both of the same name, Theory Kingdom.